Welcome everyone to the Spinal Decompression Success webinar. You are 1000% in the right place at the right time, and I promise you with all my heart, with the right content. So a couple of simple things just to get started. First and foremost, let's just make sure you can see everything. I think you can. And beautiful. All right. So my name is Dr. Perry Bard, and I wanted to welcome everyone here to really something that I would bet you haven't seen in a long time and probably have never seen before. And the reason I could say that emphatically is because we've got so much new content to share with you here today in this webinar. You're going to love it. And so what we'd like you to do is this. What we would like you to do, first and foremost, is we definitely want you to take notes, but you are in, as I mentioned, the right place at the right time. And this is without question the right subject matter. The name of this webinar, as you know, is how to capture the spinal disc market in your demographic, in your city, with a spinal decompression practice. And what we would highly recommend is to be able to make sure that you take some notes on this webinar, because we're going to drop some golden nugget bombs on this webinar that will expand your vision. It will expand your horizon. It will expand your purpose. Boy, that's a lot of expansion. But the fact is this: we respect your time tremendously, and we don't take it lightly. So we want you walking away from this webinar with some real action steps and some real content here, and you'll get the opportunity to do that here. First and foremost, we want you to take some notes. What we also want you to do is we want you to eliminate all distractions. And the way you do that is you kind of get out, as you know, come on, you know what's going down. You got to get out of the Facebook thing, the Instagram thing, the texting thing. Trust me, at the end of this webinar, all of that will still be waiting for you. So what we highly recommend is that you make sure your team, because we got so many doctors on this webinar and team members on this webinar that are part of our family, and you're going to see why. So let's jump into it. It is that magic moment. It is that time. And as they say, away we go. It's time to learn. So the absolute most important thing that you can do, there's actually one thing that you can do on this webinar, and I would asterisk this, I would star this, I would put this at the absolute top of the list. If you write anything down here today, what you need to write down is this. What we want you to write down is the most important thing that you can do on this webinar is simply to stay till the very end. And I mean the very last slide. And the reason why is because we're going to show something we have never, ever shown before. We know you're going to dig it, but I don't want to take the surprise away. So my highest recommendation, stay till the very end, and you will see why. One quick note, and we need to point this out, that the webinar that you're actually watching at this moment right now is actually on a clock. And when I say on a clock, what I mean is it's time sensitive, meaning we're going to share some content and some information live here on this webinar that actually is extremely, extremely time sensitive. You will see why as we start to go through this and more. Now, it's very funny, when we put this webinar together and we had our team get together, a number of members of our team watched all the slides and they said, you know what, I have a great title for this webinar. We should call this the Spinal Decompression Cash Package Webinar. And then another member of our team said, you know what, no, this is really, it's not just about spinal decompression. There's other technology involved here. Why don't we call the Spinal Decompression Tech Success Webinar? And everybody said, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. And then one of our team members said that, no, this is about autopiloting your practice in spinal decompression. And then another member obviously said, no, this is more about the team. It's always been about the team. And all great names. We were going to call it all of these names. And at the end of the day, we thought that great names, but we actually came up with a different name. And the name we came up with for this webinar, this is kind of like the subtitle of the Spinal Decompression Success webinar, is that this is the No B.S. webinar. We're going to give you real content here. So we want you to take notes. And we want you walking away from this webinar different. You will see, trust me, because at the end of the day, this is a business webinar. And because it's a business webinar, we get a chance to talk about cash. And when we talk about cash, if you're talking about spinal decompression, for all intents and purposes, is a cash-driven model. If you don't believe that, then watch what happens as we start to go through this process, because this is really today an overview as to kind of where you've been, where you are, and more importantly, the direction that you want to go in. Because if you're like me, and I got to be frank with you, I was that guy on the left side. And the guy on the left side was, in essence, an insurance-dependent chiro. I was never really burned out, but I know there were so many doctors that actually felt that way. However, the universe changed dramatically once we knew the power and the potential of being a spinal disc specialist that was not insurance dependent. And I got to tell you, if you talk to any of these doctors who are running their practice model this way, trust me, these guys are on fire. It's amazing. It really is incredible. So much of the content that we share here today, that we show with you, was actually coming from a manual that is, believe it or not, 1,000 pages. Now, if you would have told me it's 100 pages, I would have said, wow, that's a great manual. But 1,000-page spinal decompression manual, and as a matter of fact, the manual itself is the most comprehensive of its type that's ever been written. So we're going to actually share information from the manual here with you live here today. And the manual is so big, we actually had to put it on 3 CDs, 3 separate CDs, to be able to enclose all the content. And it has been called the most comprehensive of its type. And it's actually being updated as we speak, which is, you know, as they say, you can't rest on your laurels, right? So beautiful thing. I mean, broken down on every which level, from the history of decompression to how to get new decompression patients to whether you should run it as cash or insurance. In essence, the first contact, which we love. In other words, how do you handle the phone? Well, how does your staff handle that? What do you do in the consultation? What do you do in the examination? How do you bridge? And these are the things that in a spinal decompression practice, you have to be on top of. There's certain rules, obviously, of running a decompression practice that's hitting on all cylinders. How do you bill it? How do you document it? And then how do you market it? Well, all of that is in the manual. So we're so excited here today. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, to share some of this content with you here live on this webinar here today. And it's just as well, we always call the manual is kind of like what we always say is BBM. And if you don't know what BBM stands for, it stands for bigger, better, and more. And in case you were wondering what it actually looks like, I actually, believe it or not, I took a ruler out and I actually measured the ruler, and it was over 5 inches. So take your finger, take your thumb, and take your little pinky finger and separate it. And that's probably at least 5 inches. Well, guess what? It's actually even bigger than that. That's actually what the manual looks like. It is a powerhouse manual, and it was written by a doctor. Some of you know, but some of you don't know. So I get the pleasure and the opportunity to speak about him here today. But before I do that, I want to share something with you really, really fast, just to get you kind of into what we always call PTC. And if you remember, in chiropractic world, PTC stands for what? Present time consciousness. Now, there's actually a booklet that's known as the Positioning of the Successful Spinal Decompression Practice. We just updated it for the 2020 version. And in 2019, we did something interesting. We actually did a spinal decompression survey just to get kind of the pulse as to what's going on out there in the spinal decompression world. And we asked a few questions. And when we asked the questions, we were kind of surprised at some of the answers. And the first question we asked was, do you provide spinal decompression? Well, would you know that over 2/3 of our profession are now featuring spinal decompression in their practice, which is fantastic. If you would have asked this question years ago, those numbers could have been in reverse. In other words, it was probably only 1/3. Well, now it's up to 2/3. So that's a pretty incredible thing. But what's more incredible is this. When we asked the question, and we got tremendous amount of surveys, there's probably a number of doctors on this webinar that actually filled out the survey. So we thank you tremendously for contributing to the survey. And that is, we asked, how many tables do you have? Well, the most common response was 1 table. Most doctors have 1 table. However, After that, if you actually look at the amount of doctors that have more than one table, it's almost half that amount. And then it starts escalating from there. And we're going to talk about that on this webinar. Now, when we asked them which table was the most common, the Chattanooga DTS was actually the most common. And the reason why, obviously, I think for so many of you is because the entry point, in other words, obviously the price point. But second place was the AcuSpina. And the AcuSpina is amazing, obviously, because of the amount of research. We're going to talk about that on this webinar here as well. When we asked how you market these, we also found out that obviously a lot of it is being driven in social media, but there's certain parts of the country where print is dominating. There's other parts of the country that television is game over. There's other parts of the country that, believe it or not, radio is actually driving a mainstay of the cases. And this is actually demographic specific. And last but not least, we asked the doctors, what do you charge for spinal decompression case? And I thought this was the most interesting, because if you look at which was the highest response, the number was between $4,000 and $5,000 per case. And that puts you into a very, very healthy dynamic in terms of presentation. So food for thought. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we start to go through this. But this is actually my favorite part of the webinar. And the reason it's my favorite part of the webinar is I actually get the opportunity to share a little story, or more importantly, a little opportunity here for you guys to understand that there is a relationship in this business that is the relationship that so many chiropractors have wanted to model. And it's actually 33 years. Can you believe we've been together here? Together 33 years, and guess what? The party continues. It's actually better than it's ever been. And who I'm talking about is the one and the only Dr. Eric Kaplan. So if you want to know who wrote that 1,000-page manual from A to Z, it's Dr. Kaplan. And it was actually Dr. Kaplan who actually created the only university CEU certificate program in the world, specifically in the teaching of non-surgical spinal decompression. And this past year actually created a whole curriculum on the treatment of peripheral neuropathy. And these are both certification programs, certificate programs. And that's an amazing thing with respect to the simple fact that he refuses to rest on his laurels. He refuses to sit back. He refuses to accept the status quo. And what he wants to do is he continually wants to, as we always call, feed the machine. And the way he feeds the machine is he continues to do more research, more studies, more content, more clinical applications, and he's got his hand on the wheel as to the direction as to where spinal decompression is going. So honored to be featured actually as the cover story in the American Chiropractor. What an incredible thing that this was with respect to, it's actually 6 pages. We only showed 4 of them here, but it's an amazing interview. And if you get a chance, you definitely want to get your hands on this because there's some serious content in this as more. Really just a true honor here as well. And, the simple fact is that he practices what he preaches. He actually has done more in the past 3 months in spinal decompression than most doctors have done in 30 years. I mean, it is so wild with respect to what he is doing to carry the torch for this profession with respect to making sure that the doctors are empowered, the doctors are in a position to be able to put their best foot forward in the disc treatment world. And there's really nobody like him. And I'm so honored to be able to share with you the opportunity to listen to the one and the only Dr. Eric Kaplan.
Thanks, Perry. If Eli wasn't on this, I'd be very humbled, but with Eli, I show no humility. I've always told my children, there's 3 types of people. Those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that say, what happened? As I've been in this profession for 40 years, I've seen the change in dynamics. And what I've seen is today, you have basically 2 types of chiropractors. those that are making it, and those that are not making it. And then you could break it down further that, the number one thing that most chiropractors want in states like Florida and California, many states now, is personal injury. Why? Because it's the easiest payer. But what if I can tell you that every decompression case is like a personal injury case, with the exception of you don't have to take the lawyer out to lunch, you don't have to cut your bill, you just have to be a better doctor, not a better salesman, a better doctor. There is a crisis epidemic taking place in our country today, and basically you can say there's an opioid addiction. Well, when we went to school 40 years ago, it was, chiropractic first, drug second, surgery last. But is that the way that the average American thinks today? I don't think so. Do you know that Americans spend at least $50 billion every year on back pain? So as you're a chiropractor and you're out there struggling saying, well, gee, how come I'm not making any money? I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done this. I should have done that. And you know what I'm saying to you, doctors? Stop shoulding all over yourselves. That's right. You need to get into the game and know why decompression. The same reason when they asked Willie Smith, why did he rob banks? Because he said, that's where the money is. I mean, you have to understand that opioids are of epidemic proportion, that 50,000 deaths last year. Do you know that drugs like ibuprofen, naproxen, Celebrex can lead to increased risk of heart attacks, blood clots, strokes, that acetaminophen, Tylenol, basically Tylenol, that last year alone, there were 55,000 ER visits, 500 deaths, 2,500 hospitalizations, 100,000 calls to Centers for Disease Control. Now, understanding money, the cause of opioid addiction and the cause of these drugs is back pain. Number one cause of disability in the world. The number one source, many specialists believe that 75 to 80% of all low back pain comes from the disc. Now, this is a big exception from the Bogdock study, which used to think that the cause was muscle. It's not muscle. Now, we're starting to realize through research that the disc is the inflammation of the disc, which impinges upon the nerve, is what's creating the problem. So now that you know what the source of back pain is, what are you doing? And you know what? For those of you that have tables, listen, when I go on eBay and you see tables for sale, let me ask you the question. Did decompression table fail, or the doctor failed to educate the people on decompression? You see, you first have to know the anatomy. I teach all of our doctors at This Centers America, which, by the way, Perry, what are we up to? 140, 150 clinics? Can I say that? Over 150 clinics throughout the United States using our brand. Why the brand? Because I'm going to tell you, as the former president and COO of Nutrisystem, the weight loss company, I learned that the brand is bigger than the product. I say it over and over again. People never called up Nutrisystem and said, how's the food taste? They called with a purpose. You see, the brand of chiropractic is what's under pressure right now. Not the product. The product is the chiropractic component. But the brand of chiropractic, which has been cheapened by places like the Joint and things of that nature, have hurt our profession. Well, it's time for you doctors to take the profession back, and that's knowing what the disc. That the disc, although it has no blood supply, okay, it is active tissue. It truly is. And it does have the significant ability to heal itself. Now, whose study is that? That's actually the Boxell-Martin study. So Dr. Boxell, MD, Dr. Martin, MD, of the Boxell-Martin study, said that the disc has the significant ability to self-repair. Well, how does it do it? Well, then we go back to the Ramos and Martin study, which Perry sometimes jokingly calls the Rowan and Martin study, but he knows the difference. The Ramos and Martin study was one of the first studies that was done that showed that you can increase by creating negative disc pressure. Negative disc pressure. So what's the difference between inversion, okay, and decompression? Positive disc pressure versus negative. If you invert the patient and you put all that pressure on now what is already a weakened annulus, because let's say if there is a herniation, you do have an annular tear, okay, now you invert the patient, you're putting body weight on a product of the disc that couldn't handle it. So what decompression does by the Shealy studies, which is shown by the Ramos-Martin studies, which is shown by the Ironman studies, which is shown by the Odell studies, what they show is how negative disc pressure can be achieved through spinal decompression. And this was actually all started by Dr. Alan Dyer. Okay, we know that when the pump fails, doctors, that it will die. I mean, isn't this what we used to talk about in the basic chiropractic lay lectures? But you see, what happened, doctors, is this. When most of us went to school, we studied the subluxation. We did, in detail. But you know what? A subluxation will become a bulge, and a bulge will become a herniation. And if you look at the upcoming cover story that's going to be in from the American Chiropractic Magazine, the name of the title of the article is All Roads Lead to Disc. Why should we be failing at this, knowing that discs are 80% water, which means that many times people that have disc problems are also dehydrated. So in dehydration goes other problems. So they need water, you need oxygen, you need nutrients. And to do that, you have to create a pump. We can call that imbibition. All disc injuries have one thing in common. They have lost the innate ability to keep themselves healthy and hydrated. The movement-driven pump mechanism ultimately compresses and relaxes pressure on the disc, pumping water, almost like milking a cow. That's why you have progression and regression in many of the higher end machines. And anybody can call me at any time to discuss that because we teach that at the national certification. It's not what machine you have, it's knowing how to utilize your machine. The machine is only a part. We're not Ron Popeil here, doctors. We don't set it and forget it. What we do know is the enemy is failed back surgery syndrome. Failed back surgery syndrome is of epidemic proportions. I mean, you have to realize that the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons estimated between 20 to 30% of the 200,000 laminectomies performed each year are unsuccessful. So hold on. How would you like to get 200,000 more new patients? I mean, you see, when you look at guys like Tiger Woods who's had 4 back surgeries, and you're looking at things of that nature, then you know what? They don't understand spinal decompression. When I spoke to one of the people that deals with Tiger Woods, he said, gee, we wish we would have known about spinal decompression earlier. He's now had 4 back surgeries. You see, I'm in, you know, when you could be a dentist or an orthodontist, what I'm saying is if you're in the disc business, okay, Dr. Bard always says DC stands for disc chiropractor. Why not specialize, doctors? Listen, I have an FIAMA after my DC, but you know what? That doesn't pay the bills. Does a DAC bar pay the bills? But you know what? When people ask me, what do? You know what I do? I'm in the disc business. No different than a gastroenterologist, right? What's the initials at the end of his name? MD. An orthopedic surgeon, what's the initials at the end of his name? MD. What's the initials after the pulmonary doctor? MD. Well, what's the name after what initials after the disc specialist? DC. See, it's time for we as chiropractors to specialize and take over the business of discs. Yes, all roads lead to disc. And why can chiropractors, utilizing the right technology, you know, and utilizing that certain technologies that are, listen, that research has been done from Harvard, research like the Leslie from who did studies at the Mayo Clinic, like, you know, Odell, Ironman. I mean, we have studies that go on and on from leading doctors throughout the United States, the Beth Israel, which deals with Harvard University, that's showing the effects of spinal decompression. And yet you can go online, doctors. My homework is go online and look up failed back surgery syndrome. Failed back surgery syndrome occurs in anywhere from 10 to 40%, 40% of all patients that undergo surgery. My son, who's now in practice, in his 3 years in practice, already has 3 decompression tables. And the beauty is every day this week, he's closed at least 1 case, a minimum. So hold on, a minimum of 1 case. And these cases range in the average of $4,000. Cash, paid. This is not like, oh, the check is in the mail. That's probably my wife calling. Don't mind her. She's always like wanting to know where I am. But anyway, I'm in the studio, honey. I'm here live with Dr. Perry Bard, and we're having fun educating the people about the business of disc, that there's an alternative to narcotics. There's an alternative to epidural injections, which, by the way, doctors, so you know this, and we teach this the thing, epidural injections are not FDA approved for back pain. Did you hear what I said? Epidurals are not FDA. We have a thing called the IDEA, International Disc Education Association. You can call anytime and join. You can get the papers from the FDA. I mean, you can get these things. The purpose of the International Disc Education Association is to educate, That's why it's IDEA. It's time for chiropractors to get the big idea. You see, so epidurals are not approved. Surgery, you have failed back surgery syndrome. And then you have microdiscectomies, 200,000 laminectomies with such a big failure rate. Are you kidding me? Why are we not dominating? Up to 40% of back surgeries fail. You see, years ago, all the old consultants, and they're all old now. It's kind of like watching, you know, the presidential elections. I mean, but you know what? They're telling the same old message. P.V.A. does not stand for patient visit average. If I went around the room today of the people we have in the room, most people have had probably 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000. I probably had 1,000 adjustments. Okay, does that mean that 999 of them didn't work? No. But how many times have you brushed your teeth? See, P.V.A. really, in our world, in this and medical world, it equals patient value average. What's a disc case worth to you? What's a personal injury case worth to you? What's a knee case worth to you? What's a shoulder case for you? Do you know at this Centers of America, we are the only company I put in writing, yes, doctors, my doctors know, Shane, you could tell them, in writing that you will get your money back or will stay with you until another year till you do. Now watch what I'm telling you. In all the years, doctors, I've been coaching, not one person has ever had to implement that contract. I see he's on the line, Dr. Rosenthal. Listen, this week alone, a brand new client, and he was nervous, closed 3 cases this week. 3 cases. Why? Because we teach doctors the dynamic, the histopathology of the disc. You have to understand that kinesiopathology, which is abnormal position, is a subluxation, but that a subluxation progresses. A cavity, doctor, becomes a filling. A filling becomes a root canal, and a root canal becomes an implant. Well, you know, follow the same model. A subluxation becomes a bulge, and a bulge becomes a herniation. So we're out there. We all have that chart in our offices of the 4 phases of subluxation, but go look at that last phase and tell me if you can see a disc space. Well, this is a person that's been in pain for probably 20 years. It's not that chiropractic failed, but you see technology, doctors, have changed. And there are so many studies on decompression and IDD therapy. I mean, I can go on and list the studies, you know, the Shealy-Bergmeyer study, the Shealy-Odell study. I mean, I'll give you an example. American Journal of Pain Management, okay, decompression, volume 75, Norman Shealy and Dr. Norman Caladia, okay, and they showed success in participants of 86%. What about Practical Pain Management Technology Review? Okay, also showed success. Another Shealy study. You want an Ironman study. That was the Journal of Neuroimaging. These are all MD studies. North American Medical did a study with the Louis Chaffel study. They did a study with Emory University. Emory University was so impressed with the study, they ended up buying a decompression machine. Yes. And your chiropractors are putting them on eBay. Tiger Woods, right? So watch what happens. 4 back surgery. But what's he arrested for? For taking drugs. Because back pain hurts. Anyone that's ever had back pain, you know, at the National Certification Program, I show my MRI. And my line is, I'm not only the president of the Hair Club for Men, I'm a user. Decompression has changed my life. I was on the golf course yesterday, and I'll be on the golf course tomorrow. Why certain people are saying, gee, you know what? I don't know if I love being a chiropractor. I don't know if this is the right business for my children. Here's the question I'm going to ask you, doctors. Would you tell your children to go into this profession? If your answer is no, then you know what? Then you don't know what you're doing. My son is in practice, and he's doing great. Dr. Bart's son will be in practice. Steve Kerr urges people to opt for rehab over back surgery. Back surgery, doctors, is not winning, but are we winning? Is chiropractic winning or losing? Is the joint helping us, or is the joint hurting us? You see, you have to understand that the studies go on and on. Okay, you know, you have the biggest study was done with over 700 people, was the Goss Nagazuki study. You know, was done over 700 patients. And what if I tell you we're working right now, Dr. Bart and I, with an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Sarah Knife Chief. You imagine an orthopedic surgeon with the name of Knife Chief, yes, who just gave a wonderful endorsement for Disc Centers of America, because we're changing the world, doctors, one disc at a time. We're teaching people to be better endoscopists, because you know what I tell my patients? The difference between major surgery and minor surgery is minor surgery happens to somebody else. Look what happened to the Home Alone father, John Hurd, found dead. Why? Had surgery. Where? Stanford. A representative for veteran actors said he was recovering at the hotel after, look at what the words are. Their quote, minor back surgery he had Wednesday at Stanford Medical Center. Doctors, anyone who's had surgery knows. And then, you know, we take spinal disorders and we teach it, this in America, we categorize it. Is it a category 1? Is it category 2? Is it category 3? Is it a subluxation? Is it a subluxation with a bulge? Is it a subluxation with a herniation? And then if it has a herniation, how do you handle the annular tear? By utilizing laser. Now, we know that laser acts as a magnet to blood. So there are certain protocols, we call it TDC therapy, that we implement and utilize on and revisit. Dr. Lobig, I see you there. We talked to you today about using the ability of a Deerfield test on each and every visit to understand that kinesiopathology, that's the biggest difference, doctors, because see, the MDs are moving into the world of decompression. Yes, but you know what? They can't take care of the kinesiopathology, because if you have a kinesiopathology of the lumbar spine and we have a tilted sacrum, you can pull that thing all day long, but once you release that sacrum, it's still going to be subluxated. We have the ability, doctors, through our ability to manipulate, we can make the biggest difference in disc injuries than anybody else before, because we can remove the kinesiopathology. We can give the joint, it's no different than a door off the track. We got to get the door back on the hinge and back on track so it's not rubbing against the carpet every time. You must know the 5 components. You know, I had the opportunity, you know, on numerous occasions to speak to Dr. Dyer. Dr. Dyer was the Minister of Healthcare for the country of Canada. But you know what? People say, oh, big deal. Not only was he a PhD, not only was he MD, he developed a defibrillator. I mean, these are bright people, okay? He developed the defibrillator, yes, and he developed vertebral axial decompression, which gave birth to the VAX-D table. The VAX-D table was originally done in a prone position. When Dr. Shealy, as you can see here, the problem is, as you can see, when the arms were outreached like that, eventually when Dr. Shealy was treated, he dislocated his shoulder because there's a pull that put pressure on the shoulder joint. So eventually, as the world changed, Dr. Shealy, working with Dr. Bergmeyer, they changed it and they started going prone. In fact, these are now done even in a prone position. And we spoke in detail. I had the opportunity, you know, to speak with him. And matter of fact, you know, Dr. Dyer became the honorary chairman before he passed away of the International Disc Education Association, because he felt that nobody was carrying the torch for disc better than Dr. Bard and I were, that we were revolutionizing and educating the world of the treatment of disc injuries, that we understand the protocols, that we understand that, you know, herniated disc, bulging disc, pinched nerve, sciatica. Is there something in common? You know, spinal decompression is an event. Listen, if you can have spinal distraction without muscular contraction, that's the event. Now, could Cox do this with a Cox table? Yes. The problem that Cox had, though, is when you start manipulating the person, is we have to deal with the Golgi tendon reflex. And what happens is you want to get the spinal distraction without muscle contraction. And what the table does by doing progression and regression, okay, and then you have IDD therapy, which creates oscillation, which only some pieces of equipment provide. That's what checks it, because see the difference that we have in traction, and Bergmeyer and Shealy did the study that showed that decompression had an 86 to 90% success rate and traction 50 to 55. So there is a difference, not that traction. So here's the thing. Harvard Publishing School talks about inversion tables. Do they work? And it talks about the risk. It can increase your blood pressure. But what we know is on the disc level, it increases the pressure on the disc. No different than all the studies which was done by Dr. Nackhamson. And we found that the least amount of pressure when a person has this problem is when they lie on their back in the supine position. Look up the study. When you're sitting, you put a certain 100 pounds of pressure on your back. When you're bending, when you're doing. So the least pressure is positive 25 when you're lying on your back, which is why anyone out there, if you've had back problems, what's your most comfortable position on your back? Well, that's why decompression is done. So for those of you people that have like Chattanooga tables or other tables, and you say, should I do it prone or supine? Always supine. Why? Go read up on the Nackhamson study. I'm giving you homework, doctors. If you want to be with me, I don't want you to be a better salesman. I want you to be a better doctor. So spinal decompression technology can target a specific disc, and that's what changes it, okay? A specific angle with a specific amount of distraction and a specific result. But this is not round pro peel. It's not set it and forget it. You can't say to every person, oh, I'm putting you at 50% of the body weight on blank degrees. Sometimes, doctors, you have to experiment. I have herniations on L4 and L5. Well, for whatever reason, when you pulled me at L5, it aggravated it, but pulled me on 4 gave me relief. So what does it mean? Sometimes we learn this, that doesn't, when you adjust a vertebrae, when you go to a subluxation, does the vertebrae, doctor, affect the vertebrae above and the vertebrae below? Well, decompression will have the same effect. It's going to affect the vertebrae above and the vertebrae below. Now, there are many different types of tables. So if you look at this picture, let's take a look at it. So then you have, 2 of the bigger tables, which are the Accuspina, the DRX, and these are actually the order that I like the tables. I mean, I always say about a DRX, and I'll send anyone information because they've had a lot of FDA problems. I would date a DRX, they're sexy looking, but I'd marry an AcuSpinal, which is why my son has 3. VaxD, I don't even know if they're making new ones anymore since, unfortunately, the passing. But let's look at the bottom left-hand one. Do you see how they're changing the person's posture and their position? Well, once you do that, you're now increasing the pressure on the disc. The table in the middle bottom, that's going to probably be a Chattanooga table, okay? And the problem with that table, not that it's a problem, it's a cable winch system, meaning that the progression is okay, but the regression creates a problem. The last system, again, look at that. I'm against that positioning because you're changing the position of the spine. So in the last one, what you're doing is you're increasing disc pressure. So if you look at the first 2 pictures in the upper right and left-hand corner, that's the posture that you should utilize. The middle center, for those of you who had a Chattanooga, that's the posture that you should utilize. You should know your machine. Every machine has an FDA 510K. They're all cleared. Get your FDA 510K and go to the summary. And the summary will show you what the specific things, because when you market, you got to make sure that your marketing is equal to the equipment that you have. And you must understand the importance of the MRI, okay? You know, the M stands for the magic. You know, the R stands for the results, and the I stands for the in. The magic results are in. What it's telling me is, if you look at a before and after, you can see the difference, you know, through an MRI. And we talk about it because what an MRI does, doctors, it validates it. And if you're not doing an MRI, then here's the question: how do you know what vertebrae to pull? But I'm also very big on pre and post X-rays. I'm very big on pre and post X-rays. You know, what we have to understand, doctor, what causes neck and arm pain? Well, we know that a disc herniation will definitely cause neck and arm pain. So if a person comes in, doctor, and they have radiating pains in their hand and radiating pain in their legs, sciatica is not just going to be a subluxation. It's not just going to be a PI right ilium. And listen, doctors, I've studied SOT. I studied I studied decompression, but I also, doctors, studied drop techniques. I studied with God Almighty. I studied with Dr. Clay Thompson, and then Pierce Stillwagon. I went to Pittsburgh to study under Dr. Pierce, and it was amazing stuff which I utilized. But the difference was, and I went to a Cox seminar. The difference was, doctors. Thanks, Dr. B. The difference was, see, it's tough when you get old. The difference is, unfortunately, you have to understand that we have the ability, doctors. You right now have the ability to be a better diagnostician. You see, so many of you were in clinic, you did a good exam, you wore a white jacket. Eli, you look good in your white jacket. Then all of a sudden we get out. Let me give you a fact. I give this out. Look at the percentage of abnormal findings on lumbar spine MRI and CAT images in healthy pain-free subjects. By the way, these slides, you know, this is all on the IDEA website. So if you're taking pictures, you know what? For $179, you can donate to the IDEA, which goes 100% to research. That helps us get things like this and turn these into graphs. Okay, that, you know, and that we realize that even people in their 20s, if you look, people in their 20s, look at the almost 40% of people in their 20s have disc degeneration. This is why an MRI. So, this is not from Sherman or Life or New York Chiropractic College. No matter how you look at it, it's bad. Here's an X-ray, here's an MRI. There has to be a correlation between decreased disc space on an X-ray to a problem in an MRI. Without an MRI, you can't determine if they have a bulge or a herniation, but we do know that spinal decay will lead to disc decay. Listen, spine decay will lead to disc decay. So what does non-spinal decompression work? We fix the pump. The pump is done as the equipment goes from progression to regression, and if it offers IDD, even better. That's going to create imbibition, which is going to improve circulation. According to Boxell and Martin, we know that the disc has the ability to heal itself, okay, in the flow of water, oxygen, and nutrients. And that's why it's so successful. Listen, my radiologist, Dr. Robert Burke, is one of the biggest referrers of patients. He sent multiple MDs, you know, to either my son or Dr. Ed Buenadano, who actually, you know, I've been working with Eddie for many years as a client of DCOA, who's sitting on this webinar. And it's good because what my doctors are learning, as I told Dr. Shane today, is we're always learning. Listen, you know, Being raised on a farm, I say it all the time. The cows never stay milked and the grass never stayed mowed. The road to success, doctors, is always under construction. How good are you? Are you good or are you the best? Meaning, if I had a disc problem, if you had a disc problem, would you believe in you? Would you go to you? I'm going to tell you, if you become a Disc Centers of America doctor, if you want to be the best at what you do, if you want to stop chasing lawyers and ambulances, and you want to start getting back into being the love of a doctor, the love of a doctor. Listen, my son gets referrals from lawyers. My son gets referrals from orthopedic surgeons, but he doesn't chase anybody. See, if you're chasing someone all the time, then you're a slave. If you can teach something how to chase you, you become the master. So I'm asking you, doctor, are you a master or are you a slave? Well, it's time for you to take control of your life, time for you to take control of your practice, time for you to be a better doctor, because that's what positioning is. The presentation of the best spinal decompression doctors provide the best research. And we give this to our doctors. Research from Harvard, from the Mayo Clinic, from doctors like Dr. Paguzzi, from Johns Hopkins. There's a lot of great research out there. We talk about a book that, another book that I've written that actually, I share with all of my doctors, and we're always updating it. And it talks about back surgery and the real hidden costs. Listen, you can go to, I have an article in Time Magazine, over $270,000. Man, but look at Tiger Woods. He's had 4 back surgeries. Okay. And then what are the risks? Any medical invasion procedure has a risk. Who said that? Okay. That was said by many orthopedic surgeons. Dr. Timothy Kremchek, who actually had back surgery, who says in online, on YouTube, look him up, Tim Kremchek, he says, before you'd even have any procedure, before you'd have an epidural, he says, I would try decompression. Why? Because decompression works. And how does he know? Because we took care of another patient. But you see, here's what I'm saying. I said earlier, the difference between major surgery happens to minor surgery happens to somebody else. Watch this. Oh, doctor, I'm nervous. This is my first operation. Remember this. Every surgeon, doctors, has a first operation. Do you want to be the first? Do you want to be the second? Do you want to be the third? What the beautiful thing about spinal decompression is, with the right technology and the right implementation and the understanding of kinesiopathology, myopathology, histopathology, pathophysiology, you can make a very big difference. And that's what we're here to do today. Okay, do you know that nearly 1 in 50 back surgery patients dies within 3 years of surgery? And if you don't believe me, look it up. There it is. There's my source. That's after back surgeries, often related to analgesics. Look it up. Oh, where'd it come from? The doctorschannel.com video. I don't think you get better than this. The death rates are simply high when analgesics are involved. The majority, and we showed you John Hurd is one of the cases. Dr. Eugene Karagi, MD at Stanford University, provides sinus surgery only on a select group of patients whom he carefully screens his conclusions. Less than 25% will be completely successful even after carefully screening them. 25% will be completely successful. For the majority of the patients, surgery does not have a dramatic impact in their pain or motility. So here's what I'm saying, doctors. Are we alternative medicine? When are they going to get the message that surgery should be the alternative and that we should be the primary? Every surgery that takes place in your neighborhood, it's your fault. You didn't educate them. That's why our doctors, we do Facebook, we do television commercials. We have some of the best websites. Go to my son's website, wellingtondiscenter.com. Go look at it. Back surgery doctors epidemic. So I gave you homework. Go to my son's website, wellingtondiscenter.com. See who you can be. Look up failed back surgery syndrome. See what's going place. More than 1 million Americans undergo back surgery yearly. Wow, that's a lot of new patients. 1 million Americans. Okay, the rate is double that of most developed countries. And do you know in our country, doctor, another study that shows that of all the opioids, that our country consumes 99% of all the opioids. You don't think that we're failing as chiropractors? Go tonight when you're sitting there watching TV and you hear my voice radiating, permeating, okay, in your head saying, you know what? That made sense today. That was a great webinar today. Dr. Kaplan really is still out there studying. But you know what I want you to do as you're watching that TV? See how your commercials are going to be cruise ships, they're going to be cars, and they're going to be drugs. Those are the majority of commercials. Oh, and let's not forget, McDonald's and Burger King. And by the way, I had the Impossible Whopper, and it's impossible that anyone could say that it tastes like meat. It doesn't taste like meat, but it shows you the power of marketing. I had to go to Burger King. I had to try it. Marketing is very important, and surgeons market, doctors. They do more marketing. The AMA does more marketing. Every drug commercial you see, they're marketing their drugs, which is the anti thing of what you do. That we know the cost of back surgery can be astronomical, 6,000 to 8,000 for endoscopic surgery, 60,000 for spinal fusions. And Dr. Dio from Washington, State University has said that most of these surgeries are unnecessary. Are you kidding me? And then what if there's copay? 20%, 30%. So they think they're getting away cheap. Spinal decompression is the cheapest alternative. It's lower than the Johns Hopkins study that shows that the average back case is $6,900 non-invasively. These are, listen, and these are, we're not counting people that go for, because most people that have surgery have epidurals. There's Dr. Kremchek. Go look him up. Type in YouTube. Back surgery, the risks are enormous. How does he know that? He had back surgery. If I have a patient that comes in, I don't care who they are, and they've got back and neck pain, before I would ever recommend surgery, even surgical procedure, an epidural, an injection, I would recommend spinal decompression. Why? Because we work with other players of him, and he's one of the, listen, he's not a paid-for orthopedic surgeon. This guy has a 100,000 square foot office in Cincinnati, Ohio. He has a sports center. Okay, we talk about, ADL forms. The beautiful thing about the AccuSpina is it does a pain scale on every visit. That's why we're able to compile such great data. But, I'm going to tell you today, doctors, you should be doing an ADL before and after on every decompression case. That's how you help document it. That's how you research it. We have a Dr. Luke Henry has already performed even in front of the University of Massachusetts at medical symposiums. Our doctors at this end of America are making a difference. So here's the question, doctors. Are you making a difference? If I had back pain, would I come to you? And if I came to you, would you be able to capture me? Would you be able to close me? Example being, here's the business we're in, doctor. Getting new patients, getting them to follow your schedule, and getting them to pay. If you can master those three things, then you become a master of your practice. Getting new patients, getting them to follow your schedule, and getting them to pay. And we do that by even things like offering a free report. That happens to be my son, Jason Kaplan, and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Kaplan. Okay, WellingtonDiscCenter.com. You can look it up. It's right there. Okay, 3 years in practice, 3 decompression tables, now looking into getting his 4th. Close a minimum of 1 case every day this week. We look for the bulge or herniation, and we present it at the level, and we see the significant signs. And that's why in MRI, as we said earlier, becomes so important, because you have to understand, are you dealing with a subluxation? Are you dealing with a bulge? We know, according to the American Academy of Neuroradiology, that even almost 40% of people in their 20s have disc degeneration. A study in Orthotechnology Review, when I watched this in 2003, hold on, 17 years ago, 290 patients with herniated and degenerative disc, 86% showed improvement. Only 2% relapsed within 90 days. Are you kidding me? We're making a difference. Mayo Clinic study, this is the Leslie study. The average pain score was 6.4 out of 10. Pain for more than 6 months. 20 treatments were given over 6 weeks, which showed an 88.9% success rate. And I apologize, it's not a Mayo Clinic study. It's a study that was done by Dr. Leslie, who's of the Mayo Clinic. So I'll yell at Allison later, but significant pain relief in 88.9%. An average pain decreased from 6.4 to 0.8. 0.8 out of 10. Required fewer analgesics after treatment. No safety issues. And we have another study that was done by Shealy that shows that after a year, okay, that they're still healthy. And again, the Mayo study, the Dr. Leslie study of the Mayo Clinic, showed 91% resumed normal daily activities. 9 out of 10. Over 80% showed 50% or better pain reduction at the end of 4 years. Look at the scales, doctors. I mean, so what I'm telling you is, are you a decompression doctor, or are you playing at decompression? Dr. McClure, one of the biggest studies ever done, did it to the neurosurgeon, okay, took 500, it was actually 478 cases, pre-surgical cases, did a double-blind study, okay. After the study, 91% no longer needed surgery. Doctors, these are your patients. So just don't market for PI, and you can go online and get the McClure study. It's on the IDEA website. It's online. The beautiful thing of the IDEA website, I want you to get the big idea, is because you can get all these things and instead of going online. But to our doctors, we provide glossy research studies. We show the Leslie study, which is in the bottom left. We show the Shealy study, which is to the right. We show studies because you know what? We want to educate. Listen, how's this? I guarantee you, any person conscious code, what's going to tell you? If you get one new patient more a month, if I can give you one more new patient a month, that's triple what you pay me. Are you kidding? No coach in the history of this profession has ever made the warranty that Dr. Bard and I have made. That's how gutsy I am. And you know what? Google me, doctors. There's no lawsuits against me. My mother said, live your life like a field covered with snow. Wherever you walk, your steps will show. 40 years, doctors, and we're still helping, and we're still growing. We're the first national certification program. We're the largest national certification program. And I don't care what piece of equipment you have, but I do care if you know how to use your piece of equipment. Okay, we'll help you develop the treatment plan based on the number of discs involved. What do you do if it's one disc, two discs, three discs? Where do you pull? What if more than one disc is involved? Are adjunct therapies necessary? Are supports? Listen, that's why we have a 1,000-page manual. Our clients are the most educated on spinal decompression in the world today, bar none. Our clients succeed. I have a guy in Banana Head, Montana, who's closing cases. Yeah, Banana Head. There's a town called Banana Head. And if you believe that, there's a bridge in Brooklyn that I have for sale, but I don't know the name, but he's in Montana, and people have to drive an hour to come see him. And they're getting results because you know what? It goes by the old statement, doctors, build the field and they will come. But you have to know what you're doing. I don't want you to be good at what you do. I want you to be the best at what you do. And that's why when I spoke to Dr. Shane earlier, and I said, yeah, you're going to learn stuff at this, because I want you to understand the Boxell and Martin study that it's active tissue. I want you to know the Shealy and Bergmeyer study, okay, that shows the difference between traction and decompression. I want you to know the Ironman study that was done with MRI. I want you to know the Odell study that was done with CAT scans. I want you to be, so I can sit down with any attorney. Listen, you want to build your PI practice? Don't just be a doctor begging for a patient. You build the brand. This Centers of America is one of the biggest brands in the United States. We have more real estate on the internet for this than any other company. We have over 150 clinics. That's correct. And I'm proud of that. And you know what? We have the biggest re-sign rate of anyone. Okay, most chiropractic consultants, they treat you like an orange. They squeeze out the juice and they throw away the peel. Well, you know what? With us, you take the peel home. You master what you do. You become a better doctor. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
Are you having fun so far? I'm having fun. You know why? Because I don't know if there's anyone on the planet that can recite research study after research study after research study. And as you probably figured out, he doesn't really have notes for this. This all comes off the kind of the top of his head because he's done it for so long and he owns the material. And that's the commitment that he has to our profession. Remember, I said not his profession, our profession together. And if you're curious as to where this started, how it started, and the direction that it goes in, you've probably heard of a brand known as Disc Centers of America. And Disc Centers of America, in essence, is the largest group of non-surgical spinal decompression centers in the world, bar none. And if you're curious about how does even a patient even end up at your front door, well, guess what? Now we have the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, because what we found out is if we can take a chiropractic center and create basically a mall, if you will, of portals of entry for healthcare. So in other words, to take your uniqueness and create a specialty around it, well, that's the magic of being a disc specialist, being a nerve specialist, being a joint, knee, case in point, knee, shoulder specialist, all under the chiropractic umbrella. Now, if you ask any patient about how technology is looked upon, well, they'll tell you that doctors use technology to diagnose. They also use technology to treat. And doctors that use technology have the ability, once they are learned and once they are specialized in it, that they understand that they've got the ammunition, if you will, to be able to treat tougher cases, better cases. And if you're curious and you're sitting on this webinar and you say, wait a minute, I'm digging this Centers of America thing, but I have a question. I'm kind of thinking, is that like one of those like kind of like franchises out there? And I will tell you the answer to that is emphatically no. It is not a franchise. What it is a gift. And if you're a doctor under the Concierge Coaches umbrella, then it is our joy, our pleasure, our honor to give you that gift, which is the brand and everything that comes with it and more. So not a franchise, no percentage of anything. It's the coolest gig going, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on this webinar. But the fact is this, the fact is that if you come from the way that I came, which is in essence, my practice at one point was a 95% insurance dependent market. And why was that? Well, I think it was a sign of the times. I think it was the area that I was in. I guess there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you know anything about how success leaves clues, then you know that the doctors out there that decided to reinvent themselves are the doctors that said, you know what? It's a different hand, and I'm going to play this hand better, and I'm going to play this hand to win. Because the truth is, when your patients are winning, you are winning in that order. So the focal point here that I want you to come away with is that, yes, doctor, in lieu of being a GP, general practitioner, if you position yourself as a specialist, case in point, spinal disc specialist, because you have more training, more knowledge, and more content to be able to over-deliver your patients, then guess what? You'll command more respect, you'll have the potential to command more income, and last but not least, this is my favorite one, you'll have the potential to create more freedom, without question. That is to me, the bonus amongst bonus. That's the cherry on top of the whipped cream, on top of the hot fudge, on top of the ice cream. The freedom aspect of running a staff-driven, non-surgical spinal decompression practice for the right reasons. Patients expect this from their doctor. They want this from their doctor. They want to know that you're the best, and they want to know that you've got the ammunition in terms of technology to be able to give the patient the options that are better than your peers. And that's the magic of being a disc specialist. And it's cool because why? You ask most patients, they'll tell you this. Most patients will tell you that they want to perceive their doctor as the best. And I cannot tell you the price that that's worth. It's priceless. It's priceless. In other words, if you believe like we believe, that the patient is actually getting better the moment that they're walking into your reception area, before they even meet you, because of how you set the table. We always say at the Centers of America that the heavy lifting needs to be done up front. And if you set the table the right way, then you will be in a much better position to give the patient much better options. And if you give the patient much better options, you guess what? The potential for much better outcomes is there. There's an old saying, if you try to be everything to everybody, you'll often end up being nothing to nobody. Who wants to blend in? Blending in is boring. If you position yourself as the end-all be-all, go-to specialist that gives that patient the opportunity to avoid an epidural injection, avoid Vicodin, avoid Percocet, Tramadol, Narco, Oxycodone, and more, because that's how these patients are showing up. And to be able to tackle more than the 8% of the market share that most chiropractors are getting, now, as we say, you're cooking with gas. One of the cool things about doing this is, for some funky reason, we seem to attract some of the most heart-driven, some of the most on purpose, but some of the most entrepreneurial chiropractors on the planet. And if you get a chance to actually see this guy, he's incredible. His name is Dr. Roger Wong. Now, Dr. Roger Wong actually started with one table. But guess what? The law of supply and demand states that once that table is full and you don't want your patients to wait, you got to get a second. And then the same law applies. Now you're on to the third, now you're on to the fourth. Well, credibility is everything. And one of the things we love, which is my favorite four-letter word in the whole English language, is the simple fact that if you build credibility based upon real training, real certification, real knowledge, and spending time with amazing doctors that I would guess, or I would venture to say, that probably share some of the same gene pool, if you know what I mean, because they're very similar. They love what they do. They love saving patients from all those other bad options. They love delivering results. And guess what? They love freedom. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Dr. Roger Wong said that this and being a specialist totally changed his practice. His practice is more than tripled. He is known in his town, in Ashtabula, Ohio, as a way better doctor, way more confident. He's been known in town, but if someone wants to have back surgery, they don't have to have back surgery. They come to his office. It changes life. It changes patient's life. Each time he comes, he learns new and better material. Honest to God, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to him professionally, personally. You could speak to him. His mom and dad dig it, and we dig him. His father's an MD. We dig him as well. And listen, as I said before, you can try to be everything to everybody. And by the way, for Dr. Roger Wong, for those people who don't know, because he's done so amazingly well, he just opened his second office. Guess what? In Cleveland, Ohio. So now he's actually moving closer there. And you know, listen, when you have something that's working and it's hitting on all cylinders, that's what you want to clone. So you start to see doctors that have multiple chain offices because the first office is doing so well. As I mentioned, if you try to be everything to everybody, you'll often end up being nothing to nobody. Find your lane, hit the accelerator, punch the gas, and drive without any limits. And I think that's a fun way to go. You know, Dr. Kaplan always talks about he does not want doctors, and this is true of all chiropractors, but especially all doctors, to ever feel like a salesman. And I know that there's probably times that they might have felt that way. I know I did. When I first started, there were times that when I started, I actually felt like, gee, you know, I didn't like the way that sounded. Would I have liked to hear that report of findings? So what did he do? He rewrote everything. And this goes back a long time, because if you watched in the beginning, holy cow, 33 years together, and it just keeps getting bigger, better, more, and we're having more fun than anyone on the planet. What we wanted to feel like. And the only difference between, if you notice here, they both share the same letter. It's the letter S. I just didn't want to be a salesman. I wanted to be a savior. And a savior saves his patients from narcotics, epidurals, and surgeries. That's what you guys are doing. That's what you gals are doing every single day if you are trained as a non-surgical spinal decompression doctor. So let me tell you what, I can tell you 100 things on this webinar what to do. But guess what? You know what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you what not to do. This is what you should not do. What you should not do is put decompression under your chiropractic generic website, because I promise you it'll get lost. I promise you you're doing nothing. You've seen these websites, and it's no shame against these doctors and no shame against these websites, because we all had websites like this at one point. But once we learn that the perception becomes reality, that you want to position this in a way that separates you from your peers, separates you from all the other chiropractors, separates you from the orthopedic surgeons and neurosurgeons, the pain management specialists, the physiatrists, and more. Instead, what you want to do is this. What you want to do is you want to have a website that speaks. And listen, we're not in the website business. We are not. We don't sell websites. We don't provide websites. But what we will tell you is that your website is crucial. Your website is crucial. Now, we can make recommendations what you can do, but instead of making recommendations, we're going to show you here on this webinar. You want to have your website actually take spinal decompression and hold it out as a specialty among specialties, and ask patients, are you a candidate for non-surgical spinal decompression? Remember, patients are skeptical, and they have a right to be, because they've already been through the mill and they got beat up a little bit, and you may be their last hope. Guess what? You may be the best kept secret in your demographic, which sounds like a compliment. Oh, I'm the best kept secret. But you know what? If you're the best kept secret in your market, that simply means that there's so many patients that don't even know you exist. Make sure your website has incredible testimonials. Our Descendants of American Doctors have amazing testimonials, and all these testimonials are actually being updated in 2020. So, you know, we constantly show patients that they're not alone, that there's people that have walked in their shoes and more. And especially, it's so funny, because if you ever hear us lecture, one of the most prideful things that I get an opportunity to talk about happens to be, believe it or not, Dr. Jason Kaplan, which is an amazing story and study and success. And I know what you're thinking on this webinar. You say, well, gee, he's the son of Dr. Eric Kaplan. Of course he's successful. Well, not so fast. I'm going to tell you, nobody worked harder, and nobody was more opinionated. Trust me. Nobody, I'm telling you, took this thing in a direction, and we're so proud of him because he's crushing it. Him and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Kaplan. And as we say, success leaves clues. There's a way that these websites need to look. Credibility builds respect. And one of the geniuses of Dr. Kaplan is people give me a lot of credit. They say, oh, you're the tech guy. You're the social media guy. You're out there with the marketing. You know whose idea it was to create an app? It was Dr. Kaplan's. Dr. Kaplan put the whole app thing together. And guess what? The app is free. It's completely free to patients, and you can download it, and there's great visuals on it. This Centers of America actually has its own app, which is incredible. This is our brand, and our brand of This Centers of America is unique because, as I mentioned, it is separate and distinct amongst the chiropractic profession. And what I mean by that is this. What I mean is really simple, that it stands out amongst the rest. This Centers of America has the most real estate on the entire internet for non-surgical spinal decompression centers and searches for disc disorders, hundreds of clinics and more every week. Here's one of the things I'm so proud about. I think at the end of the day, when you peel back all the layers, every single This Centers of America center is actually owned by a chiropractor. How cool is that? At the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're doing one simple thing. You are, without question, over-delivering. I hope you got that. Over-delivering your patients. That's the only way this works. You want to under-promise, you want to over-deliver, and that's how you create raving fans. That's how you create patients that are in love with you, that are screaming to them off the mountaintops how amazing you are because of your uniqueness, your specialty, and the simple fact that you saved them from some really bad outcomes and you gave them their life back. Life is very good, and it's about to get better on this webinar.
It's so cool. While Perry's talking, I'm getting text after text. Rama, love you, Rama Wagner, a superstar in Florida. And then you have another doctor. We get mails. Dr. Lisa Richter, the first month already closed 3 cases. Never did decompression before. When he talked about Roger Wong, never did decompression before. His father, the MD, called up and wanted to know the research. Everything that we do is research driven. I mean, wouldn't you agree, that it's been time spent? Because see, my job is to give you a time's worth. See, when money is spent, it's gone. When time is spent, it's gone. But the difference is money you can get back, but you can't get time back. Now, you know what? You can't cover everything in an hour webinar. We can't. So here we go, baby. We're going to start moving into it because you know what? Listen, if you ask me, doctors, would you agree? I mean, it's been great. I mean, but here's what I'm telling you. It's special webinar offer, so you get everything you need. But here's what I'm telling you. Am I selling something? Yes. Am I selling myself and Dr. Bard? Yes, but I'm selling something bigger than that. I'm selling freedom. Freedom, doctors. I'm selling success. I'm selling a change in self-image, right, Dr. Kern? I mean, doctor after doctor knows. Learn how to convert patients, how to get them in, how to get them to cover, how to get staff-driven training anywhere. I mean, this is amazing. Learn about decompression, neuropathy, laser. Learn why our doctors have the highest conversion, okay? And go to a mastermind event where we teach you how to take your practice viral, okay? How to open doors to your untapped market. Remember, Dr. Bard used to get 20 new patients a day when he was in practice. I pulled his behind out of retirement, looking to avoid opioids, looking to avoid epidurals, all those unnecessary procedures. You're in the best position. You see, doctors, there's never been a better time for chiropractic than today, unless you're working for the joint. And then you're an employee, not an employer. You see, doctors' case study is very important. You take a guy like Dr. Carrie Gurgis, okay, another guy never did decompression before, was driving an ambulance, was thinking about giving up the profession. Carrie 9 has 9 tables. 9. We have the biggest doctors in the country. We have a doctor in New Mexico with 30,000 square feet, a doctor in Jersey, 13,000 square feet. We're changing the world, okay? Decompression, lasers. I mean, we're making chiropractic great again. Not to give a political analogy, but let's call a spade a spade. The profession and the image of the profession was not strong, but the brand This Centers of America is strong. Case study. I'll give you another case study. What about this? Dr. Putnam from California, biggest month 2 months after. I was just blown away. The information that they had, the enthusiasm, the excitement, and then some other doctors that were in a seminar were having like 8 or 10 or 12 decompression tables in their offices. It opened up my mind what the possibilities were, and if they charged me direction, the cost of my office. Now I have 3 decompression tables in my office. I expanded my office, opened it up more. I could talk about, guys like Dr. Troy Dreiling, I mean, one after another, Richard Lohr, a gentleman amongst gentlemen. These guys are the best. Dr. Kaplan's energy and Dr. Bard's wisdom is outstanding. They gave me 4 pages of actionable items I could apply to my practice immediately. All I have to do is listen to them and implement it. Don't try to reinvent it yourself. I mean, this is what we do, doctors. I mean, we reignite the passion. Dr. Thane, the great state of Washington, if you're considering coming to a chiro event, I'd hardly encourage you to do it. If you're looking for igniting that passion, the passion, doctors, imagine loving what you're doing again. Imagine having the freedom, not having to chase attorneys. Dr. Barton and Dr. Kaplan, come to the chiro event, learn what you can, so you can find out the way to ignite personal power and passion inside. Are you kidding? What could be better than waking up and wanting to go to the office again? Do you know how I hear that every day? When I have people like you, Dr. Wagner, that's out there changing the world and doing neuropathy and helping veterans, we're so big with helping veterans. We just got another great, endorsement from orthopedic surgeons. We're getting medical endorsements for our profession. The chiro event, listen, this is a life-changing event. Life-changing. And you can go to thechiroevent.com, and I'm going to tell you, if you want a day that will change your life, it will change your life. And not only do guests come, okay, my clients sit in on it because they're learning. The content that we give is unbelievable. We're going to talk about your decompression table. We're going to talk about protocols. We're going to talk about, closing techniques. We're going to talk about everything that you would need to know. This will be one day that'll be life-changing. And how can I give away so much in one day? It's very simple, because I know, like everything else, like a great meal, you're going to want more. So if you want to do this, doctors, if you want to do this, call Lacey to reserve your seat. The number is 888-990-960. But let me be specific right away. This is not a seminar. It's not. This is not, I don't put 100 people in a room. Don't do it. I maybe have 10 people in a room, 8 to 10, and that's it. And I close it to another month. And there are doctors out there, and I can give you doctors the call, that have been closed out. Why do we do it in a conference room? The reason being, doctors, is because we got to open up the door that opens up your subconscious, that will enter your superconscious, that will let you know that inside your subconscious is a superconscious that can take you far. Because you know what I'm going to ask you, doctor? The question I'm going to start the seminar is, what's a new patient worth to you? What's your patient value average? If I could add one new patient at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, how much would you pay to get 20, 30, 50 new patients per month? I mean, we had one doctor who's doing one of our internet programs that got 30 leads last month. 30. Are you kidding me? What's one new patient worth to you? One new patient, doctors. You have to ask that self. And then, what are you willing to do? See, what are you willing to do to get more? How much would you pay to get 100 new patients? But you know what? Here's what I tell people. If you get one new patient per month, doctors, if you came to the event and I could add one new patient to you, is that worthwhile? This one statement will sum up your entire success in spinal decompression, because what we're doing is we're bringing back the cash component. Your patients are either buying what you're selling or you're buying their excuse. That happens in every report of findings. Imagine that a person comes to your office, they fill out the forms, they tell you that they've had AIDS, they tell you they've had herpes, they tell you they've had, all these infections, they tell you their mother and father died. Then you bring them in and you examine them, and then you do what they would call the report of findings. But you know what? How many turn you down? And then, do you think that somebody got in a car, waited a half an hour, filled out paperwork, told you their whole history without the intent? You see, they didn't buy what you were selling, and you bought their excuse because they came to you with a problem. You just didn't educate them. Nobody in today's world wants to be sold. Listen, you come to the event, I will not sell you. There will be no contracts at this event. The event totally changed my practice, okay? With Dr. Bart and Dr. Kaplan's help, okay, I've created a reputation in my town so big that he treats the Cleveland Browns, that quarterbacks come to him. That's why he had to open closer to Cleveland. They would travel an hour because my doctors are the best when it comes to decompression. And here's a guy that did not even have a table when he came to us. Dr. Chris Luria, another guy out of the great state of Virginia. I can go, listen, I'll give you state after state. just amazing. The positioning, the branding, and the confidence taught by Dr. Kaplan and Dr. Bard. The missing piece of my business. My company has grown exponentially since the Chiro event. The event is the gold standard. Why? Again, because it's not a seminar, doctors. It's truly an event. And then we have an attendee bonus. So imagine getting a free success library. Here's the $1,000 value. So you know what? Listen, I'll give you books. You want the Chiro event book? We'll give it to you. You want my book, Awaken the Wellness Within, which will help you give a better talk in chiropractic? I'll give it to you. You want the 5-minute motivator? I'll give it to you. And I have a new book coming out called the 1-minute motivator. You want to know the basic things about spinal? We will give you this and more. You see, this will be a day that'll be life-changing. And anyone that's been to the event, as you've seen from Dr. Wong on down, this includes all the bonuses. Reserve your seat for $499 today. That's not a lot of money. I mean, when you think about it, what's one new patient worth to you? What's one new patient worth to you? And why can I put a charge like that on it? Because it's worth it. You get in life what you pay for. You want something for free? Doctors, I did free. What's really free? What's really free? Well, at Trump, the water's free. But you want to have a hamburger, you got to pay for it. In life, what is for free? So we don't market free. We don't teach the marketing of free. But hold on. You know, I told Perry, I'm not doing a webinar just to hear myself talk. So we're going to do something even more special. Okay? If you call, okay, today, doctors, I'll give you the seat for $99. What does that include? It includes all those manuals, $1,000 in value. You will be on the Trump property. It'll be, and go to thechiroevent.com, watch the video. We will have lunch as my guest at Trump and do this. Why can I do this, doctors? Because we care. Because we're taking the profession to a higher level. We're taking the profession to a higher standard. Okay? You know, we're very happy we came. Dr. Stickle, who actually just resigned again. We were able to open our office, and with 2 months, we were able to take a 10-day vacation, came back to work. Everything has been going smooth. And this was a person that, and I have one, go to conciergecoaches.com. You want to see 50 testimonials? Watch one after another. I'll go testimonials with any other coach in this profession. I'll put my resume against any other profession. And then you have the great Mark Lasagio. Okay? I would say these gentlemen have it going on. I would recommend coming down here because they have programs that in our profession we don't think of. And here's a guy that has his diplomate. So if you're really interested at being on the cusp, but thinking about coming down, get your butt down here. And that's what it comes down to, doctors. You know what? If opportunity knocks, doctors, you got to open the door. And if you want to lead the band, you got to face the music. That's the way it is. Are you happy? Here's my question to you, doctors. Are you happy? What are you looking for? Why did you really attend this webinar? What one thing were you looking for? Well, I will promise you this. If you come to the event, besides the $99 fee, besides the $1,000 in material, I will sit down with everybody personally. And if you have questions, you bring them to me. And I will not leave that seat until I answer every one of your personal questions. What's the value of that? Limitless, far greater than the $1,000 and the attendee bonus. And you can see that's what we have. I mean, I have Texas, I have Washington, I have Ohio, I have Florida, I have Virginia, I have California, I have Illinois, you name it, we got it. You know, and that's what we do. I mean, we keep going on. I mean, you know, we're helping men, we're helping women. You know, this Chiro event really, it's almost like a discovery day, because we're going to talk about not only spinal decompression, but the buildings for it and how to get the people in. Laser marketing, neuropathy marketing, weight loss marketing, personal injury marketing. And what do I mean by personal injury marketing? Because see, if you become a better doctor, the lawyers are going to seek you out because you'll be able to document a disc case, and a disc case is worth more than a soft tissue case, especially if you can be an expert witness. My doctors become experts at decompression. And this is a limited offer. Like I said, you call today, it's $99. You want to come a month from now, pay $499. I'll be glad to take your money. And includes everything they said, $1,000 of material. It'll include lunch at Trump, which I'm telling you, it costs more money for you to drive through the gate. And anyone who's ever been there will tell you that. Okay? And you, for $99, you're giving them a guest too. You want to bring your spouse or your office manager? Bring them. I'll give you the guest for free. And I'll buy them lunch for free. And I'll tell you why. Am I selling something? Yeah. I'm selling you freedom. I'm showing you that, you know what? Why did you really come to this webinar? What is the patient value average? What is one new patient worth to you? And I will tell you this, doctors, I could sit here right now and say, none of you will come away from that event and not end up with another new patient. You're going to make more money. That's 100% guarantee. You don't like the money, I'll give you $100 back. I don't need your money. Anyone who's ever been down to Florida, and you can call as many of my doctors you want. Just go to, oh, you want the app? Go onto your phone and type in DCOA. This Centers of America, and get the app, and you can give it to your patients and watch video after video. See the type of television commercials that our doctors produce. See the websites that our doctors do. The best utilize the best material, they get the best results, that have the best income and the best P.V.A, which is patient value average. And I will promise you this, it will sell out. You have more? There's more.
There's actually
this
more.
This is brand new. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, you know what's so wild? I got to tell you, is actually there's more people on this webinar right now than when we started. So, credit to you, doctors, for following our wink wink recommendation in the beginning of the webinar when I said, make sure you stay to the end of this webinar. I'm so glad that all of you have, and more and more. And here's the reason why. We wanted to do something unique. We wanted to do something special. We value your time. This is not some cliche statement to give you a pat on the back. This is the reality of the world we live in. Dr. Kaplan often says that money is replaceable. What's not replaceable is time. So you gave us time to hopefully come away better. And based upon the comments, as he mentioned, that are coming in on this, then I think you guys are pretty happy. But guess what? I think it's about over-delivering, so we kind of live by that rule. So what we did was this. We did a very cool thing specifically for this webinar. And what we did was this. We created a video series, actually, of what we call the 3 C's of spinal decompression. And if you want to know why our doctors are so successful and why we love coming up with new content for them, is the simple fact that we've learned that, as we mentioned, less often is more. So we've kind of got it down to the lowest common denominator here and simplified a ton of these things into what we call the 3 C's. Now, the 3 C's stand for, number 1, the capture of the spinal decompression patient. Number 2, the conversion of spinal decompression patient. Number 3, the close of the spinal decompression patient. This is an amazing video series that has never been shown before. When we talk about the capture, what we're really talking about is the marketing of the new patient. So rule number 1 is, what kind of net are you throwing out to be able to capture the highest quality individual that you can? Because I guarantee that if you qualify them better and you set the table better and you do more of the heavy lifting up front, and when I say heavy lifting, what I mean is seamless, turnkey, automated things that are setting the table for you before the patient even meets you, well, that starts with the marketing. We call that the capture. After that, Dr. Kaplan did an amazing video. It's called The Conversion. And the reason I dig this video is because you got to remember that patients often, and we kind of look at it on a scale of what we call A to Z. Often patients will come in and they may be at A, at B, at C, and before they ever are on a treatment plan, whipping out a credit card or paying you by check, then they have to go from A to Z. Well, guess what? Getting from A to Z in some clinics takes a little bit of work. In some cases, it takes a lot of work. But what happens if the patient's already come in and they're already at, like, let's say X or Y, right? Well, guess what? They're one step away from becoming a patient, and that's strictly based upon medical necessity, and it's based upon what you feel is in their best interest before you present the financial package. And speaking of the financial package, that's what we call the close. And the close is, how do you present the financial accordingly? How do you educate the patient before that, so when you're actually in a position to talk about finances, that the patient is ready, willing, and able to say, you know what, I like this, I love it, I want more of it, it makes sense to me, I don't know if I can afford it. So what we did was we cut a video on this to talk about the financial aspect of this. And these are not long videos. These are actually very short, very succinct, very direct, very exacting videos. And of course, you know, in Dr. Kaplan's amazing genius, what did he do? Well, of course, he had to over deliver. What he did was he did a special bonus video. And the special bonus video is actually my favorite video. You know why? Because he talked about headspace on this video. And if you know anything about Dr. Kaplan, you know that, as he would say, build the field and they will come. You got to set the table the right way. And a lot of that starts between your ears. So he cut this amazing bonus video, which really kind of summarized the first 3 videos. Now, I know if I'm on this webinar, I'm ready right now to whip out a credit card to just say, hey, listen, I don't care what it costs. I got to get my hands on this. It makes all the sense in the world. You've kind of encapsulated all this stuff, and I love it, and I want it. And here's $997 because I know what a new patient is worth, and I'm more than ready, willing, and able to do it. And, you know, that's me. But listen, you know, hey, maybe you feel that way, and maybe you just need one additional prod. Maybe you need one additional degree to say, you know what? I'm 99% of the way there. So hopefully this helps you, because what we also did is we actually included a notes package with this. In other words, we actually had everything transcribed, so you can actually read it through and you can take notes in the notes package that comes with the video as well. So as our special gift to you, if you're on this webinar as you are right now, and nobody's left, which is incredible to me. You guys are amazing for hanging out this long, but I wanted to do something special. Dr. Kaplan wanted to do something really special for you. So if you're able to register, if there are any seats left, we do not know how many seats left because we don't handle that aspect of it. Go to the website, fill out the form, and try to secure a seat. You get a free guest if it's available. Now, what'll happen is this. What'll happen is if you go to the website and you try to register and it's closed out, what'll happen is you're going to get a pop-up window, and that pop-up window is going to give you a choice. And it says, do you want to be added to the wait list? And then there's a yes or no box there. So if you don't have that box, then absolutely grab your seat. If that box is there, then you can make a decision whether you want to be on the wait list or not. And as our special gift for grabbing a seat at the Chiro event, this is our bonus package for you guys. And here's the best part. If you're able to secure a seat, then the videos will actually be emailed to you within 24 hours of securing your seat. All right, so you don't have to wait before you come, because this is one of the beautiful things and one of the gifts. This is one of the gifts that we're doing. And like Dr. Kaplan, you know, that's just, you know, listen, I think he should change his name to the middle. I don't know if you know this, but his middle initial is actually S. So it's ESK. Sometimes he uses that. And I think the S actually stands for Santa. It could be like Santa Claus. I know. So here's a very cool thing. All Centers of America doctors are going to receive this for free with your event registration. So in other words, one of the cool things about this is the simple fact that you, if you're a Centers of America doctor and you're listening, because we have so many of them on this webinar, then guess what? That's our gift to you. It's going to be in your email box within 24 hours. If you're not a Centers of America doctor, then try to grab a seat at the Chiro event, and it'll be in your box. The reality is this: you will have an opportunity to learn more in one day, guaranteed, than you've ever learned in your life about the business of success in the disc world and beyond.
I'm not that nice. I'm really not that nice. But, you know, it's our profession, doctors. Is the brand bigger than the product? The answer is yes. I mean, here's a picture of Trump in the last event that we did. It was very successful. And, you know, why we can give so much stuff away is because we understand the power of the brand. I mean, Dr. Rosenberg, my favorite training ever, has multiple clinics in California. Her husband is a dentist. The amount of content materials, user-friendly examples, and take-home gifts were far beyond anything I would have imagined. So my husband is a dentist, also attended and felt that like me, and this was the exact business of success training that we loved from the moment we arrived at such a beautiful location for training. So imagine doctors, you know, Dr. Cameron Rowe in Texas, small town, didn't have decompression, one traffic light in his town. Now there's 2 traffic lights in this town, and he has 2 tables, and he's growing, getting ready for his 3rd. The Chiro event is awesome. You need to attend one of these. You're in a room given so much information that'll make your head spin. You're going to leave with so much. I had to stop by Ross and buy an extra backpack to put all the stuff in it they gave to me to put on the plane and take it home, as I couldn't fit it all in my suitcase. Anybody that's on the fence about coming, absolutely 100% I recommend it. And doctors, if here's what I'm going to tell you. You know what? If you don't have the $99, then you know what? Then you don't have the guts and you don't deserve to go the next level. It's not about the money. It's about the commitment. The difference between commitment and committed is the person that says, I'm going to lose weight. They made a commitment. But then they go to the office and they give out chocolate cake and they say, oh, one piece of cake's not going to hurt. They weren't committed. The $99, doctors, is your first start to commitment. Okay, we hold this at Trump National. It's an exclusive upscale community. It's a members only community. It's a day that will truly blow you away. And we do this because you know what? This is the property. Never been held anything like this before. Nobody's ever seen anything like this before. It's the way the world should be. And it's very funny, doctors, whether it be the president himself, when I'm on the property, people don't look at me as a chiropractor. They look at me as a disc specialist. I mean, they come to me on the driving range. I show them the app. We just helped somebody with plantar fasciitis and laser. They know that, what concierge coaches is, where touch and technology come together. Now, when I went to school, Eli knows they called me a mixer. So imagine that for $99, you can reserve a seat at the Chiro event. Watch the video. And if you're not willing to invest $99, doctors, then you don't deserve to be in my world. You just don't. Because I'm in a world where I believe that chiropractic should be first. Chiropractic is not a philosophy, an art, and a science. Chiropractic, doctors, is a science. And it's time for you to be the leaders in the science, because philosophy is subjective and science is objective. I mean, the bonus that he's giving away for free, that's unbelievable. I wouldn't have given it to you until you attended. He's a much nicer person than I am. But you know what? We believe that these are going to enlighten you so much that you're going to want more. If you think this is the beginning, it's just the beginning. It's not the end. I mean, we believe, Harvey Mackay said, give the client everything they expect and then more. And that's what we do. And that's what Perry said. So if you want to learn how to capture the patients, if you want to learn how to close the patients, if you want to learn the conversion of patients, because are they a chiropractic patient? Are they a disc patient? Do they have one disc? Do they have two discs? Do they have cervical problems? Do they have lumbar problems? If you want to learn this and get the notes, and like you said, for all my doctors out there, Dr. Raymer, Dr. Wagner, etc., you're going to get that for free. So if you're already a Distance America doctor to receive the decompression, you're going to get it. All you have to do is nothing. Why? We give our clients everything they expect and more. We're always sharpening the saw, as you would say. We're always creating new commercials. We're always creating, we have a veterans report. I mean, can we give them the veterans report at the event?
At the Chiro event, yeah.
At the Chiro event, we're going to give you a veterans report, because there is a proclamation signed by the President of the United States that says that veterans has to provide chiropractic benefits. Every hospital does. And how do you get access? Our doctors are getting access. And guess what? Veterans Benefits pays for decompression. Yes, it does. So you know what? This is a true limited offer. It's $499 tomorrow. If you call today, it's $99. I'll give you 24 hours to call. Because you know what? After 24 hours, pay me the $499, and I'm going to tell you what, it's worth $499. It's worth $599. If I said I'd charge you $1,000, you'll get $1,000 worth. Because what's one new patient worth to you? I will assure you that you will get a new patient, and you will learn how to close a patient as a result. Between the videos and what we're going to give you in this day, I don't think there's a better day in the history of this profession, because that's my legacy, doctors. Winston Churchill said, you make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give. So if you want seats information, there's the 800 number. You'll probably speak to Lacey, 888-990-9660. If you want to make a difference, doctor, then you have to be different. Okay? So this is where we go, doctor. So let me show you what you do next. Call Lacey to reserve your seat. Toll free. Oh, that's free too. Toll free, 888-990-9660. And I'm going to tell you, doctors, it's a $99 investment to freedom. It will change. Your practice will grow. And why do I know it? Because that's why we're number one in discs in the United States. No clinics do what our clinics do. We have the biggest and most successful clinics compared to anybody else I know. You know, all the old coaches are gone. We're the future doctors. So either you're living in the past or you want to be part of the future. If you want to be part of the future, your time is here today. For $99, doctors, you can do this. But you know what? It's not for everyone. If you're not committed to being a better doctor, if you're not committed to better serving your patients, if you're not committed to studying and working a little bit harder, if you're not committing to understanding not only the research, if you just want to be a salesman, go sell cars, sell stocks, become a day trader. But you know what? That wasn't your destiny. You're a doctor. So you know what? Be a disc chiropractor. Be a real DC. Why just be a bone mover when you can be a specialist? Don't be the joint. Be a Disc Centers of America doctor. Come to the event. Let one day change your life. It'll be the best $99 you ever spent. How do I know it? I guarantee it. So I'm Dr. Eric Kaplan with my best friend, my partner, my muse, Dr. Perry Barn, saying, you know what, doctors? You have to decide, do you want to be average? Average is the best of the worst or the worst of the best. I'll repeat it. What's average? Average is the best of the worst or the worst of the best. I don't want to be average. I never wanted to be average. I don't want my doctors to be average. I want them to be the best of the best. So if you're looking to take your life to another level, if you're looking to get the excitement back in your practice, you're a phone call away. 888-990-9660. The strong will survive. I look forward to meeting you at the Chiro event in Florida. Thank you and God bless.